ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
वीर्यं
सह
कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
ॐ शान्ति
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 शान्तिः।
शान्तिः Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya, good morning.
Good morning, Ajay.
So we were on the eighth mantra of the fourth section of the first chapter. We will just chant it again. Please unmute yourself. Tadetat preyah putra preyah
Tadetat
तदेतत्प्रेय
preya
पुत्रात् प्रेयो
preya
vittat preyo anyasmat sarvasmat
vittat
वित्तात्
preya
प्रेयो अन्यस्मात् सर्वस्मात्
antaratam yadayamatma
अन्तरतरं
antarattam
यदयमात्मा
So yonyam atmanam priyam bruvanam
स योऽन्यम् आत्मानं प्रियं ब्रुवाणम्
bruyat priyam rotsyati ishvarahi
bruyat
ब्रूयात्
priyam
प्रियं
votsati
रोचतीति ईश्वरोः
ईश्वरो
tataiva syat
तथैव
तथैव स्यात्
स्यात्
atmanam eva priyam upasita
आत्मानमेव
आत्मानमेव
प्रियम्
उपासित
उपासित
saya atmanam eva priyam upaste
तय
स य आत्मानम् एव
आत्मानमेव प्रियमुपास्ते
प्रियमुपास्ते
nahasya priyam pramayukam bhavati.
न
न
हास्य
प्रियं
प्रियं प्रमायुकं
प्रमायुकं
भवति।
भवति
Okay. So we saw in the last class a small definition of this, and what was that? Anybody remembers? The last class with this mantra, we said the uh, mantra says basically that Atma is dear to everybody, right? And we said there are only two things which people actually love. One is Sukham, the pleasure itself, and the other is Sukha Sadhanam, which be the object which gives the pleasure, right? And of these two, we said that Ananda, the Sukham, is the primary one because the Sukha Sadhanam is relevant only when it gives Ananda, right? Therefore, Atma alone is Sukham. And we used a technical word. What was that? We called it Atma Shesham, right? Okay. Now, basically, unless you love yourself, you don't love anything else. That is what is being said, right? And Vedanta says that when you find problems with other people, it is not the mistake of any other people. It is our own delusion that we expect unconditional love from other people, right? And we have said earlier that ultimately you love only yourself. And love for anything else is Sukha Sadhanam. Love for yourself is for Sukham only. Love for everything else is love by way of loving Sukha Sadhanam. Therefore, really speaking, even when you say you love your wife, you love your husband, you love your parents, you love your children, you love your position, you love power, whenever you say any of these things, remember that essentially you love them not for their own sake, but because they contribute to your bliss, to your happiness. So you love them as a Sukha Sadhanam, and only you can love only yourself completely. Right? And we have to even extend this to the Lord, right? To Ishvara also. Even love for Ishvara can be a primary love only when Ishvara is yourself. Because your self-love is primary, is the highest love, and that is a fact. And therefore, you cannot have any higher love than self-love, even for Ishvara, unless Ishvara is yourself. Right? Similarly, when you say that the jnani loves everybody unconditionally, what is the understanding? The jnani loves himself. One second, I'll just mute somebody who is. Okay, somebody was having a mic open. Okay, so when you say the jnani loves everybody, really speaking, there is a contradiction, right? You love yourself unconditionally. The jnani loves himself unconditionally. And we also say that the jnani loves everybody else unconditionally. So there are two statements. The Vedantic law says that you can love only Atma, yourself. Really love only Atma. The true love is only for Atma. And now there seems to be an exception because you are saying Jnani loves everybody else as much as his own self. So you are all advanced students. What is the reconciliation?
He sees everyone as self.
He sees everybody as himself. Right? Jnani is no exception to the rule because he has discovered that everybody is none other than himself. So actually when you say he loves everybody, he is loving only himself. That rule is not violated. Right? So if this particular state of the jnani is called sarvatma bhavaha, which means he has identified everybody with his own self. For him, there is nobody but himself. There is only Brahman, there is only Atma. So, when any darshana, any religion, any faith tells you that Ishvara is different from you and you have to love him, there is a problem. From the Vedantic angle, nobody can love anybody really in the primary sense as much as he loves himself. And therefore, if you see Ishvara as different from yourself, then Ishvara is Sukha Sadhanam only. And we saw earlier, the love for Sukha Sadhanam is what? Conditional love only. And unless you understand that Ishvara is not different from you, that love for Ishvara cannot be primary love. Right? And Ishvara is like Jnani. And when he says, Jnani says Ishvara, Jnani says myself, is all the same. The Jnani's me or myself includes the world, includes Ishvara, includes everybody. We have seen this in the Bhagavad Gita. What is the pramanam for this? That Jnani is everything. Krishna says in the 7th chapter, Jnani tvatmaiva me matam. Jnani is not different from me at all. Right? Therefore, an Ajnani loves Ishvara because for him, Ishvara is something or somebody who fulfills his needs. He lacks the Sarvatma Bhavaha because he does not identify himself with anybody but himself. So he has self-love but not universal love. And the Shruti says that Atma is dearer to you than even your own son, even your own child, even your own father, even your own mother. And this is to be extended to everything else. Atma is dearer to you than wealth also, dearer to you than wife and husband and son and children and parents, dearer to you than anything else. Therefore, Atma is the thing which you love the most in the world. And when you say Atma, remember you are saying, I love myself. When I say I love Atma, it means I love myself. So these were three laws which we saw. And there is a fourth law. Whatever is close to me, I love more. And whatever is far away from me, I love a bit less. Right? So the loss of a good neighbor who lives next to you usually affects us more than the loss of some relative who lives far away and we don't see very often. Therefore, only those who are close to you are loved very, very deeply. And therefore, Atma and Atma alone, who is the closest to you, you love the most. Right? That is the text of this mantra, which we are now going to see. So let us look at the words. Tadetat preyaha. This Atma is dearer to you. You love the Atma more than Putrat, than the son. Right? Vittat preyaha. You love that Atma more than Vittaha, wealth. Anyasmat preyaha, sarvasmat preyaha. You love that Atma more than anything else, more than everything else. Anyasmat, anything else. Sarvasmat, everything else. Right? What is the proof? We all work throughout our lifetime, earning money, you have a good bank balance, you invest in a house, all those things. But when you have a health problem, which do you choose? Money or health? You always choose to spend the money so that your health remains. Health is related to you yourself. Therefore, another proof that whatever is mine or me, that I love the most. Then you can have a question. How come people sacrifice their lives for their children or for their country? What is the answer? They are my children. They are my country. It is always I who is connected here. Atma Sambandha is there. You won't sacrifice a life for Afghanistan. But when it is your country, Mamakara is there. Wherever Mamakara is there, Atma Sambandha, the connection with I is there. Me and mine. And therefore it says, Anantara Taram Yadayam Atma. This Atma, Yat Ayam Atma, Anantara Taram. Anantaram means absolutely, Anantaram means interior, closest to me. Taram is a suffix which is superlative. So Anantara Taram, closest to me, absolutely interior, no different from me, myself. And therefore, any other love other than self love is conditional. It is a fake one, right? And therefore, Vedanta is saying that you should learn to depend upon your self love only, upon yourself only, because others, there is no, there is no, certainty that they will not abandon you at any time. Right? So, ananda which you get, happiness which you get out of loving something other than yourself, other than Atma, is temporary ananda. It will be perishable ananda. Okay, now we go to the next part of the mantra. This is presenting a conversation between Ajnani and Ajnani. Right? So the first, it is the Jnani talking. Sa yaha anyam atmanam priyam brvanam bruyat. Right? So saha anyam atmanam priyam brvanam bruyat. This is the Jnani talking to the Ajnani. So, who is the Jnani? The Jnani is the one who calls himself, who loves himself. So, Atma Priyavadi. Atma Eva Priyaha. The one who loves himself the most is the Jnani. And he is saying, Saha Yaha Anyam Atmanam Priyam Brvanam. That true love is the love of the Atma alone. Who is the Ajnani? The Ajnani is the one. It's a very nice definition. Okay. The Jnani is one who loves himself, the Atma, the most. And if you don't do that, and if you love something else, so anything else other than you is anatma. If you love something else, then you are a anatma priyavadi. So jnani is one who loves the atma. Ajnani is one who loves something other than the atma. Right? Now this ajnani says that, hey Vedantin, you are very selfish. Right? I am not selfish like you. Because you say I love only myself. But me, I love other people. I love family. I love country. I love the people in my society, and I want to do selfless service. This is the viewpoint of the Ajnani. And we say such a person is Anatma Priyavadi, one who loves something other than himself. Right? So, Saha Yaha Anyam Atmanam Priyam Brovanam Bruyat. So, Anyam Atmanam, Atmanam Anyaha, other than the Atmanam, Priyam Brovanam, the one who loves. So, he says that everything other than Atma, Atmana Anyam, other than Atma, is Priyam, is to be loved. And that alone is really true love. Right? So Jnani replies, Yaha Priyam Rotsyati iti sabruyat. In that case, what is the argument of the Ajnani? Yaha Anyam Atmanam Priyam Brovanam. Right? He says everything other than Atma is to be loved. Which means I love my parents, I love my children, I love my friends, I love my society, I love my neighbors, I love my country. Everything comes in that. But from the point of view of Vedanta, all that is other than you, the Atma, so is broadly classified as Anatma. So he's saying it is the Anatma which is to be loved, not the Atma. This is the viewpoint of the Ajnani. And the Jnani says, Yaha Priyam Rotsyati, it is the Bruyat. Right? He says, those Priyam, those Priyavastu, those objects which you love, your family, your children, your parents, your country. So Rotsyati. So Rotsyati means, the literal meaning of Rotsyati is to weep, to cry. Right? But Shankara here gives a extended definition. So he says Rotsyati, he defines Rotsyati as avaranam. He gives three adjectives. Rotsyati is avaranam. Avaranam, of course, you know, is covered. Then he said prana samrodham prapsyati, which means the prana stops. He stops breathing. He dies. And vinangshati iti is destroyed. So there are three meanings of this particular word, rotsyati. The literal meaning is cry. But if you take the literal meaning, you will say the anatma will cry. The priyam objects will cry. But that is not correct. So what is being said by the jnani is that if you love anatma, remember that one day they will all go away. That's why three adjectives: covered, dies, and destroyed. Depending on what type of anatma you're talking about, they will all go away, and therefore you will cry. So ultimately, you can say you will be weeping, you will be subject to sorrow because those objects are not permanent. And therefore, the basic idea is that Jnani is saying any attachment to objects, the natural consequence is sorrow. And therefore, Priyam Rotsyati iti, that Anatma will all go away, will definitely perish, and you will have to face a lot of sorrow. Right? Now, Saha Ishvara Aha. Saha Ishvara Ha. So he becomes the master of this statement. The Jnani makes this such a controversial statement very boldly. Why? Tatheva Syat. Because Anatma will definitely perish. And anybody who is attached to Anatma, they will face sorrow only. Therefore, if you love an Ishvara more than yourself, remember that Ishvara is going to be Anatma. And what is the nature of the Ishvara? Shankara already said. Avaranam will be covered. Prana Samrodham will stop breathing, will get destroyed. Vinangshyati will get destroyed. So will die, will get destroyed. So that has all the same problems which any Anatma Vastu has. If your Lord is other than yourself, then that Lord is going to be Anatma. And the nature of that Anatma is Rotsyati. What should I do then? Then that is the idea. Turn towards Atma. Right? Whatever Anatma you love, whether it is sacred Anatma in the nature of Shiva Lingam, in the nature of deity, or the body of another person, non-sacred Anatma, what should you do? Atmanam eva priyam upasita. So upasita here means knowing, not meditation. One should know Atma alone as the dearest priyam object in the world, as object of the highest love. Okay. So the natural question when exposed to this teaching is, why is Shruti teaching us to be selfish? Right? What is the answer? When there is nobody else in the universe, where is the question of being selfish? Selfish is when you love yourself, excluding others. But once you have understood this knowledge, this jnanam, there is no other being. When you say I, you include the entire universe. And definitely your wife is included, your husband is included, children are included, neighbors are included, even enemies are included. Right? And we should note here that when we say that Jnani loves the whole world, one very careful understanding is he loves the whole world as himself, as Atma alone. We should not say that he loves in the normal sense of as an object, as an anatma. Why do we distinguish? Because when an Ajnani loves family members, he loves them as people different from him. Whereas when a Jnani loves family members, he loves them as himself. And that is why it is not just his family members, but includes the whole universe. And therefore that love is truly selfless, not selfish at all. Problems come when I love some people and don't love other people because they're objects. When I'm loving somebody as other than myself, then only problems come. When I love everybody as myself, where is the problem? Because there is nobody else to create a problem. Right? And therefore, such a person, for him, the Atma is always there and he never has any sorrow. Right? So he says, Sa Yaha Atmanam Eva Priyam Upaste. The one who knows the Atma in this manner as himself and loves the Atma the most, Asya Priyam Pramayuktam na bhavati. He Asya Priyam Pramayuktam na bhavati. Right? That for him, he Asya, for him, Priyam, that Atma, the one which thing which he loves, Pramayuktam na bhavati, will never perish. So Pramayuktam is a word coming from the dhatu ma, the root ma. Ma can mean no, and ma also used as a measure of something. Therefore, Pramayuktam, Prama is a measure from the root ma. Pramayuktam means capable of measurement. It's a very, beautiful way in which Sanskrit words are formed. What is capable of measurement? Finite or infinite things?
Finite.
Finite things. Therefore, Pramayuktam na bhavati means that Atma will never be finite. Which means that Atma will always be infinite. It will never perish. Once you get to understand how words are formed, the interest in Sanskrit grows more and more. And this is the Phalashruti. That state of Ananda without an end, that state of happiness where there is no sorrow at all, that is what we call moksha. And Shankara in his commentary adds a very nice note. He says, supposing a person is a Manda Adhikari, he has not got the Chitta Shuddhi required to understand the teaching. So he is unfit for Jnanam. Then the same knowledge, the same mantras will not give him Jnanam because he is Mandadikari. In that case, what should he do? He should use it for Upasana. Right? Use it for Upasana. And the phalam for such a Upasana is that his near and dear ones will have a long life and he, of course, will get Chitta Shuddhi in due course and then be fit for Jnana. Okay, now we go to the next mantra we will chant.
Om sir, may I just ask a question?
Yeah,
Sir, this my book says Prama Yukam Bhavati. Is it Yuktam?
it is
Is
Yuktam.
it wrong?
Brahma Yuktam.
Yuktam. Okay, thank you, sir.
Brahma Yukam. Brahma Yukam is Yukam is the same as Yuktam, capable of
Okay,
being. The word is
okay,
Brahma Yukam in the mantra word is Yukam.
okay.
But it has to be
Hmm.
taken as Brahma Yuktam or that
Yuktam.
which is possible to measure.
Hmm. Okay, sir. Thank
Okay. We go to the mantra 149. We will chant. Tadahu
तदाहुः
यद ब्रह्म विद्यया सर्वं भविष्यन्तो
यद्ब्रह्मविद्या सर्वं भविष्यन्तः
मनुष्याः मन्यन्ते
मनुष्या मन्यन्ते
किम तद्ब्रह्म अवेत्
किमु तद्ब्रह्म भवेत्
यस्मात् तत्सर्वम् अभवद् इति
यस्मात् सर्वम् अभवदिति
Now here you have to first visualize, imagine that there are a lot of students who are meeting. So Brahmanas, the ones who are in search of Brahman, the ones who are in the Brahma, the path for Brahman. Students, they are meeting, right? And tat ahu, they are talking, they are discussing. Yad Brahma vidyaya sarvam bhavishyantaha manushyaha manyante. So manushyaha manyante. There are some people who say, who think, manushyaha manyante. Some people think, yad Brahma, that Brahman, yad Brahma vidya. That Brahma vidya is here it is vidyaya, right? Through that Brahma vidya. So some people think that through that Brahma vidya, sarvam bhavishyantaha iti. We can become everything. So some people think that through Brahma Vidya, we can become Sarvatma Bhavaha. I can understand that I am everything. Right? Now comes the question. Kim tad Brahma avet tasmat tat sarvam abhavat iti. How can we know that Brahman by which he becomes everything? Right? So to explain, the question is, how did Brahman become everything in the first place? You are saying Brahman is everything. So how did that Brahman become everything? Right. The play here is on the word become. How did Brahman become everything? What is the corollary? If Brahman is everything, as you say, at some point in time, Brahman should have become everything, become in inverted commas. At some point of time, Brahman should have become everything. And if so, what was the process by which Brahman became everything? Let me intricate. Are we following?
Yes.
So it's just cognitive understanding.
Yeah, we're coming to that. These are the
Become-
questions, right? So if this question comes up, and this is the discussion going on. So if the question comes up, then there are some issues which have to be considered. What is that? You say Brahman becomes everything. So there are two ways in which Brahman can become everything. One is without getting any knowledge, and one is by knowing something else. Okay, these are questions which are being considered. If Brahman became everything, did Brahman become everything without any knowledge, without getting or acquiring knowledge? What is the import of that statement? If Brahman became everything, again became, okay, if Brahman became everything without the need for getting any jnanam, then why do I have to get jnanam? Why can't I also become everything without getting jnanam by using the same process which Brahman followed? Because he has first First part is that Brahman becomes everything without the need for jnanam. So if Brahman can become anything without the need for jnanam, why can't I become everything without doing all these studies, without any jnanam? That's the first question, which has to be considered. And the second one is, suppose Brahman became everything without jnanam, but by knowing something else. So there, of course, you can't say without jnanam. Because first is without jnanam, second is with jnanam. So suppose Brahman got jnanam, which means got jnanam of something else. And because of that jnanam, he became everything. Right? In that case, there is a problem, right? Because if you become everything, if you become sarvam by knowing something else, then the question is, how did that something else become sarvam? You have to give the same answer by knowing something else. And that leads to what we call the anavastha doshaha, the problem of infinite regress, because that can never stop. Brahman became everything by knowing object number one. So then how did object number one become everything? By knowing object number two. How did object number two become everything? By knowing object number three. It will never stop. So it's called infinite regress, anavastha doshaha. Okay, so that has to be rejected. Then, what is the third, what I call, possibility? First possibility, Brahman became everything without getting jnana. Second possibility, Brahman became everything by knowing something else. What is the third possibility?
By knowing itself.
Third possibility is Brahman became everything by knowing itself. And therefore, okay, by knowing Brahman, we can also become everything. Right? Now, if we become everything through Brahma Vidya, which means Brahman also becomes everything by knowing Brahma Vidya. When you are saying that, you are saying Brahman, what is everything? Everything is Brahman only. So if you reword that particular statement, you are going to say that Brahman became Brahman by knowing itself. Brahman, when you say became everything by knowing itself, you reword that statement and then you have Brahman became Brahman by knowing itself, by knowing Brahman. So this is what is known as, in Sanskrit grammar, it's got a name, Kartru Karma Virodaha. The defect of subject and object being the same. It's not possible. The subject can never be the object can never be the subject. It's a logical defect. And therefore, how can you say that Brahman is everything? Therefore, if Brahman cannot become everything by the three methods, what are three methods? By without knowledge, by knowing some object, and by knowing itself. Right? All these three we cannot accept. Therefore, there has to be a defect in all these three methods. What is the defect?
Become.
Become. If Brahman becomes everything, what has become can also unbecome. Right? What has become can also perish. Why? Because the word become, it's a verb. It implies a process. And wherever there is a process, the final object will never be permanent. So this is called Nashwaratva Doshaha, the defect of being perishable. So this is the question of the student. The whole mantra which we read is this question only. I explained very, very great detail. This is the question. Now we have to say the answer which comes in the next mantra. So we will chant 1, 4, 10. Very, very important mantra where you find the Mahavakyam. Brahmaiva idam agra asit.
ब्रह्मैव अग्र आसीत्
तद् आत्मानम् एव अवेत्
तदात्मानमेवावेत्
अहं ब्रह्मास्मीति
अहं ब्रह्मास्मि
तस्मात् तत्सर्वम् अभवत्
तस्मात् सर्वमभवत्
तद्यो यो देवानां प्रत्यबुध्यत्
तद्यो यो देवानां प्रत्यबुध्यत्
स एव तद्भवत्
स एव तद्भवत्
तथा ऋषीणां तथा मनुष्याणाम्
तथा ऋषीणां तथा मनुष्याणां
तद्धैतत् पश्यन्
तदैतत् पश्यन्
ऋषिर्वामदेव प्रतिपेदे
ऋषिर्वामदेवप्रतिपेदे
अहं मनुर्भवं सूयश्चेति
अहं मनुरभवं सूर्यश्चेति
तत् इदम् अपि एतर्हि
तत् इदम् अपि एतर्हि
य एवं वेद
य एवं वेद
अहं ब्रह्मास्मि इति इदं सर्वं भवति
अहं ब्रह्म अस्मि इदं सर्वं भवति
तस्य हन देवाश्चन्
तस्य
देवाश्च
अभूत्या ईशते
अभूत्या ईशते
आत्मा ह्येषां स भवति
आत्मा ह्येषां
भवति
अथ योन्यां देवतामुपास्ते
अथ योऽन्यां देवतामुपास्ते
अन्यो सावन्योऽहम् अस्मीति
अन्योऽहमस्मीति
न स वेद
न स वेद
यथा पशुरेवं स देवानाम्
यथा पशुरेवं स देवानां
यथा ह वै बहवः पशवो मनुष्यं भुञ्जयुः
यथा वै बहवः पशवो मनुष्यं भुञ्जीयुः
एवमेकैकः
एवमेकः
पुरुषो देवान् भुनक्ति
पुरुषो देवान् भुनक्ति
एकस्मिन् एव पशौ
एकस्मिन्नेव पशौ
आदीयमाने प्रियं भवति
आदीयमाने प्रियं भवति
किं बहुषु तस्मात् देशाम्
किं तु बहुषु तस्मात् देवान् देशान्
तन्न प्रियं यदेतन्मनुष्या विद्युः
अन्नप्रियं यदित्तन्मनुष्या विदुः
So this is a very, very famous mantra. Why? Because it contains the phrase. Which phrase?
Aham
अहं
brahmasmi.
ब्रह्मास्मि
Aham brahmasmi iti. Okay. So that is a Mahavakyam. And this mantra is called Brahma Kandika. Okay, it is the very essence of the word Brahman. So let's look at this mantra bit by bit. Brahma va idam agra asit tat atmanam eva avet aham brahmasmi iti tasmat tat sarvam abhavat. So this is the aham brahmasmi is the Mahavakyam. And there are others which we see. What are they? Prajnanam Brahma in Rig Veda. That is Aitareya Upanishad, which we have not done. I am Atma Brahma, Mandukya Upanishad, Atharvana Veda, Tattvamasi, which we have done, belongs to which Veda and which Upanishad?
Samaveda Chandogya.
Okay. So this Veda is what? Which we are doing? Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Which Veda is it?
Yajurveda.
It is Yajurveda,
Ah,
right? That is
ah,
because the other three are Rig Veda, Atharvana Veda,
yeah.
and
Sama.
Samaveda. What is left is Yajurveda. Remember, these are not exhaustive lists. These four are just the representative Mahavakyams. There are thousands of Mahavakyams in the Shruti. Any sentence expressing the oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma is called a Mahavakyam. These are only four representative ones. Now, what is the gist of this Mahavakyam? We saw three methods. Brahman becomes everything without jnanam. Brahman becomes everything by knowing something else with jnana. And Brahman becomes everything by knowing itself. Right? So, what is Brahman becoming everything by knowing itself? The last method. Shruti has said that Brahman alone appears as Jivatma when during Ajnana Avastha, during the time when you have no Jnanam. Right? At that time, it is Brahman alone which you recognize or misrecognize as Jivatma. Ultimately, Jivatma is nothing but Brahman. Right? So Brahman is Shishya, Brahman is Guru, Brahman is Ishvara. And when you say that Jivatma gains knowledge, Atma Jnanam, ultimately who is that Jivatma? It is Brahman only. So when I say that Jivatma gets Atma Jnanam, you can read that statement as Paramatma, Brahman gets Atma Jnanam. Following? I hope. Any confusion? When Jivatma studies and gets Atma Jnanam, Jivatma is none other than Brahman, Paramatma. Therefore, it is Paramatma alone, Brahman alone, who gets the Aham Brahmasmi Jnanam. Right? Remember that Ajnani Jiva, there is no such thing. He is nothing other than Brahman. Therefore, Brahman alone knows that Aham Sarvam. I am everything. What is the difference? There are two states of knowledge, two avasthas. One is Ajnana Avastha and one is Jnana Avastha. There are different names given to the same entity in the different avasthas. Just like in Jagrata Avastha, you are Vishwa. In Swapna Avastha, you are Taijasa. Similarly, there are two avasthas here. Ajnana Avastha and Jnana Avastha. In Ajnana Avastha, you Brahman are known as Jiva. In Jnana Avastha, you Brahman are known as Brahman. Right? So in this mantra, Ajnana Avastha is taken as the past, in the past. Because we are all now in which avastha? In Jnana Avastha, because we know we are Brahman. Right? So this is the background which I hope you understood, against which we will read this mantra. You understood the background? Everybody? Any questions?
Yes,
And
Acharya.
Hariji, will we still call it a jnana avastha? Because what I understand with avastha is that it has a limitation.
No. Jnana Avastha here is to distinguish from Ajnana Avastha, the time when you don't know.
Okay.
Right. So now read the mantra. With this background, let's look at the mantra. Agre. Agre means in the beginning. In the beginning means during Ajnana Avastha. Ajnana Avasthayam. Agre. The meaning of Agre. What was there? Brahmaiva idamasit. In the beginning, during the Ajnana Avastha, Brahman alone was there. Brahmaiva Brahman alone. Idam asit. So idam, remember, is Jivatma. Sakshi. Right? It is Sakshi. Brahman alone was there as idam, as the Jivatma Sakshi, or as Krishna called, as the Kshetrajna. And tad atmanam eva avet. That Brahman got knowledge about itself. That eva word is important here. We will take it as that Brahman alone got knowledge about itself. Shankaracharya adds in his commentary, you have to take the eva as meaning without being associated with any of the bodies. So it is kevala atmanam lakshyartham, shuddha atmanam. So that shuddha Brahman knew itself, avet. Avet knew itself. What did it know? Aham Brahma Asmi iti. So that Brahman knew that I am Brahman only. Tasmat. Therefore, wherefore, as a result of this Aham Brahma Asmi Jnana, Tasmat is as a result of self-knowledge, Tat Sarvam Abhavat. That Jivatma, Tat Sarvam Abhavat, became everything. Remember that Ajnana Avasthayam, during the ignorance phase also, Brahman was everything. What was not known was Brahmatvam. What is Brahmatvam?
Knowledge that I am Brahman.
What is Manushyatvam?
Thinking I'm a human.
No. The state of being. It's abstract noun. It's an abstract noun. The Manushyatvam is the state of being Manusyaha. Brahmatvam is the state of being Brahman. There is no thinking here, right? So during Ajnanam, remember that Brahman was everything. Only the Brahmatvam, the state of being Brahman, was not known. In the sense that he didn't know that he was Brahman. Not that he was not Brahman. So Jivatma is just another label, another name for Brahman. And once you get the Atma Jnanam, you will know that Jivatma and Paramatma are the same. Jivatma is the name on Ajnana Avastha. Paramatma is the name in Jnana Avastha. Two names based on two different avasthas, but not two different substances. Like you are a mother and you are a daughter. The context is different, but you, the substance are the same. Right? So Jivatma and Paramatma Aikyam is therefore very, very clearly being pointed out in this mantra. Any questions? Because now Shankara enters into a very exhaustive bhashyam, which is called the Mahavakya Bhashyam. On this Aham Brahmasmi, we are going to see Shankara's commentary, which is very, very interesting. So before that, I want to know that, I want to understand whether you have got so far what we have talked about. Is it clear? All okay?
Sir, can I just clarify?
Yeah.
So before I studied Vedanta, I did not know my Brahmatvam.
Yep.
Is that the understanding? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, Shankara takes up the views of other darshanas, other commentators on this mantra. Right. Now, there is a very, very famous commentator called Bhartri Prapancha. Bhartri Prapancha. So he says that in this mantra, the word Brahman refers to Jivatma and not to Paramatma. He says Jivatma is definitely different from Brahman, from the Paramatma. Then, and he gives a reason. Because when he says that Jivatma is different from Paramatma, we can ask, why is that Jivatma called Brahman? Or why is he called Paramatma now? So Bharata says that this is the way of the Shastram. That you are going to become Brahman later, and therefore you can be called Brahman now, even though you are not Brahman. It's like you refer to a 2-year-old as young man. He is not yet a man, but he will become a man later, and therefore you can call him young man now. Same way, you the Jivatma are currently different from the Paramatma, from Brahman, but you can be called Brahman because all things going well. You will become Brahman after acquiring Atmajnanam. So it is okay to call you Brahman, prospective Brahman, even before you acquire Atmajnana. So the Ajnani Jivatma is called Brahman the moment he steps on to the spiritual path. When he comes to Veda, he is called Brahman. And Bharata Prapancha says that during the Ajnana Kala, the state of ignorance, the Jivatma is necessarily different from the Paramatma. And he gives Shruti support. Same mantra says Tat Sarvam Abhavat. Abhavat iti. Abhavat is literally became. Word became. So Tat Sarvam Abhavat, he the Jivatma became Brahman. Right? Therefore, he says, Shruti is very clearly indicating that he became Brahman after Jnanam, which means what? He was not Brahman before Jnanam. He was Jivatma only. That is the first argument. Then the second argument is that Bharata Prapancha gives another argument. He says, the Shruti clearly differentiates between Brahman and Jivatma, between Paramatma and Jivatma. How? Shruti says, Brahman has no defects whatever. While the same Shruti talks about Jivatma with different gunas, Alpagnya, Samsari, etc. Brahman is Nirguna. Right? And he says Jivatma travels because of the power of karma. He goes to higher lokas, comes to lower lokas. He is reborn as animal or plant or bacteria or god, right? Or gods. Thus, the Shruti says clearly differentiates between Jivatma and Paramatma. And not only that, Shruti says that you have to go and reach Paramatma, which means that you have to travel. Therefore, Jivatma must necessarily be different from Paramatma. And he gives a third reason, all philosophers accepting Advaita, whether it be Nayayika, whether it be Yoga, whether it be Sankhya, whether it be Vaiseshika, if you have a nodding acquaintance with all these philosophies, you will know that all of them have one common plank of agreement, and that is that Paramatma is different from Jiva. In fact, there is a book called Tarka Sangraha. It's an interesting reading if you can ever find it. It's a Prakarana Grantha basically, or Tarka Shastra. So it says Atma is of two kinds. One is Jivatma, the other is Paramatma. And Yoga Sutra also says Ishvara is defined as different from Jiva. Paramatma has no karma and is always in Ananda, Jivatma is always a samsari. So he talks about various philosophers saying that there is a clear distinction between Paramatma and Jivatma. And the fourth reason is Anubhava. He says your Anubhava itself shows you what? That you are not Jagat Karanam, that you are the miserable Jiva. And therefore, for all these four reasons, Bharata Prapancha says that the Jivatma is not Brahman at all in the beginning during Ajnana Kala. Okay, these are the four reasons that he gives. Shankaracharya starts his refutation. So he says if Brahman is Jivatma, Look at the Upanishad. What is it saying? Tavatmanam eva avet. That Brahman knew itself. Right. Now, according to Bharata Prapancha, here the word Atmanam refers to himself. Who is this himself? This is before Jnanam, right? It is after Jnanam that he says Tad Atmanam eva avet. He knew himself. So who is the person before Jnanam? It is Jivatma. Now you look at the words. Tad Atmanam avet. That Jivatma knew itself. Right? Shankara catches on to that and says, if Jivatma knew himself, how did he know? What is the wording statement which indicates this? Aham Brahma Asmi iti. Therefore, if you say that Jivatma knew himself, it means he knew himself as Jivatma. The word Mahavakyam, Aham Brahma Asmi, will have to be taken as Aham Jiva Asmi, if you accept Bharata Prapancha's explanation. And Shankara says, obviously you cannot call it Brahma Vidya because you are not Brahman. You have known yourself as what you were, which is Jivatma. And therefore you have to call it Jiva Vidya. I hope you are following. Okay. Then comes a Purva Pakshi who says that even if you say Brahma Vidya, ultimately it is Jiva Vidya alone. Shankara says, if that is the argument, if Brahma Vidya means Jiva Vidya, where is the need for Shruti to discuss Brahman at all? We need not be told Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. What we require is Jivatma Jnanam. In other words, Samsara Jnanam. Therefore, Karma Kanda alone is required. Karmic Jnanam is alone required. And through Karmic Jnanam, we should be able to become everything. Sarvam. And therefore, according to Bharata Prapancha interpretations, discussion on Brahman is useless. Brahma Vidya is useless. And therefore, the whole Shruti part of it, being Brahma Vidya, is useless. So now Purva says, okay, fine. I accept that Brahma Vidya is Brahma Vidya. But he says, you look at the mantra, the first Brahman in the mantra refers to Jivatma Brahman, there the samsari Jivatma, and thereafter, after Jnanam, that samsara Jivatma becomes Paramatma. Therefore, the first Brahman is Jivatma in the mantra, the second Brahman is Paramatma. Thus, the discussion on Brahman becomes useful because only after gaining of Atmajnanam from the Shruti, Aham Brahma Asmi, the Jivatma realizes that Brahman is Paramatma and therefore he becomes Brahman. Okay, so with this we will stop. I will take the argument for this in the next class. Any questions? All very, very heavy, but very good for Maranam.
Just one, I would not say question, but just one point here, that when Jiva is claiming Brahmatvam,
Yeah.
it's automatic transition, so to say.
No, the point is, do you
the
agree?
knowledge that Aham Brahma Asmi.
Yes, but the point is, Bharata Prapancha is saying that you were never Brahman before the knowledge. That is the point at dispute. Were you Brahman before knowledge or did you become Brahman after knowledge? Bharata
There was
Prapancha
an
says,
avarana of ignorance, and therefore we thought that we were not Brahman.
yeah, that's a different point. The point is, were you Brahman or not? As an entity, did you change?
Okay.
Because that's the whole discussion on the word await, become. Okay.
So the point here is that
Always
we
Brahman.
were always Brahman
You are Brahman. You will continue to be Brahman.
due to be Brahman.
All that is happened is that the knowledge that you are not Brahman has gone.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so with this, we'll stop for today. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav
Om
Purnamidam
Purnamada
Purnam
Purnamidam Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamadaya
Purnam
Purnameva
Evavasishyate
Vasishyate.
Om
Om
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
That's
patience.
it.
Om Om.
Inshallah.